Every day, I'm finding myself saying this more and more often also. Every day, the news from the Orange Bastards circle of fascists just gets worse and worse. The news, that is. The people around him, have you noticed that very slowly, but absolutely, the quality of the people around him, if that's the word to use, quality, has steadily deteriorated. Remember during the campaign what the Orange Bastard said? I've got the best people. I've got people who... Remember all that horse shit? This is the same time he was telling America he was a billionaire and he was a successful businessman. And every other single lie that this Orange Bastard has come up with, he and his filthy, criminal, rotten family, I can't wait until they all go to jail. If there is justice available, they will go to jail, especially Ivanka. Oh, my God, what a lying little bitch she is, huh? Man. But I digress. Where was I? Oh, yeah. Excuse me. The news from Trump and his coterie of monsters just gets worse and worse every day. Now, we have information from today's New York Times, and I think it was talked about on a couple of broadcast outlets last night, that the Trump monster is now responsible for the deaths of children and the potential deaths down the line a bit, down the road a bit, for more deaths of children. And even worse, what this Orange Bastard has done now will ensure that 10, 15, 20 years from now, when he is dust in the wind, some of the people, some of the kids who have been exposed to this virus will start suffering fairly horrific symptoms. Medical science is not sure yet, but they're not sure one way or the other. But with the Affordable Care Act gutted, which is what this bastard wants, of course, at that point, there would be no way to get insurance because of, pre-existing conditions. Now, one hopes anyway, that by the time that might happen, that this entire argument about health care will have been settled, that health care is a right, that the availability of health care, the ability to receive health care will be a right, not something that depends on how much money you have, but depends on whether or not you are alive. If you are alive, you get health care. That's the way it should be. But the latest, the bastards, all of them, in the White House, pressuring the CDC where it concerned opening schools. Have you heard about this one yet? Like I say, it just keeps getting worse and worse. This was from the New York Times. And what this is about, apparently, I shouldn't say apparently, in fact, top White House officials pressured the former global premier epidemiological agency, the Centers for Disease Control here in Atlanta. They were pressured this summer, the center was, to play down the risk of sending kids back to school, which is the sort of political intervention that is just staggering when you think about it. This is one of the most sensitive public health debates of the pandemic, and that is, what do we do with our kids? How do we protect our children? I mean, Jesus, bleeding Christ, Trump won't even get involved in the protection of children. Isn't that a primal instinct, if not the prime directive, to protect our young? I mean, most mammals have that. Apparently, this orange son of a bitch, Donald Trump, couldn't care less if that interferes with his a particular narcissistic poison. If this interferes with his desire to get a second term as president, he doesn't give a shit about children. And you goddamn phony Christians, I know none of you listen to this podcast anymore, but I'll say it anyway in case you stumbled across a YouTube video. But you goddamn Christians, I mean, your Messiah told you what to do with children. But you dirty bastards, you don't care. Screw you. I'm so sick of talking about Christians I could vomit. Anyway, as part of this behind-the-scenes effort that the Times is reporting now, the suck-up is around Trump. Trump also tried to circumvent the CDC in their attempt to find alternate data, maybe from the dark web, showing that the pandemic was weakening and that there was little danger to children. Now, this is back in where? July, August, June? What was the death count then? 40,000, 50, 67? What is it now? 210,000, 220,000? This is staggering. Staggering. But it should make clear, even to you big-gutted son of a bitches that run around with your AR-15s, just how much your exalted leader gives a shit about you or your bastard children. I mean, you just don't get it, do you? You just don't get it. Maybe you'll get it when your kids start to die. Will you get it then? You jackasses. So the documents that the New York Times found and interviews that they conducted show how the Trump monster spent weeks trying to press public health officials, the professionals, I should say, to fall in line with the orange bastards election year agenda. And that was to push to reopen schools and get the economy up as quickly as possible. If people die, screw them. Donald Trump doesn't give a shit. And besides, he'll be the first to tell you, 220,000 dead out of a population of 130 million. I mean, 330 million. Who gives a shit? Right. So the orange bastard and his team have remained defiant. They're still doing this in the demand for schools to get back to so-called normal, even as these COVID-19 cases once again are ticking up. And in some cases, linked to school and college openings specifically. But why should that bother the orange bastard, right? Now, the effort to bullshit the American public and to put children at risk, that effort included Dr. Deborah Birx. Remember about 3-4 months ago when I told you I don't trust anyone who is willing to stand with the orange bastard and make pronouncements about public health? Are you shitting me? Seriously? So apparently part of this scam was Deborah Birx, which may be one of the reasons she's floating the idea that she's ready to resign. What's the matter, Dr. Birx? Getting too hot in the kitchen? Your dirty goddamn lies are going to out, and you're going to be cast as what you are, another Trump filleting sycophant who doesn't give a shit about public health. You suppose, Dr. Birx, You know, she was the White House's coronavirus response coordinator. And the efforts also included those filthy officials who worked for the uber-Christian Mike Pence, who led the task force. Pence, I'm telling you, you phony, white-haired, slow-talking son of a bitch, you, if there is a hell, be prepared, bro, because your ass is going to burn to a crisp for what you've done. Your Messiah said, suffer the little children to come unto me, for such is the kingdom of heaven. You pig. The effort also left officials at the CDC, which you'll remember that used to be the world's premier public health agency. But it left officials there alarmed at the degree of pressure that was coming from the orange bastard and Trump and Pence and Birx and the rest of these son of a bitches. Yeah, I'm really unloading with the profanity today because this drives me insane. I've had children. I have grandchildren. And I think about what these monsters have done and continue to do. Birx You ought to get your ass away from Trump as fast as you can. And if you are a Christian, which I'm sure you are, you ought to spend the rest of your goddamn life on your knees, not in front of Trump, but in front of some altar or some statue of the Virgin Mary or some goddamn imaginary creature begging for forgiveness for what you've done. But that won't happen, will it? One member of Mike Pence's staff said she was repeatedly pressured by Mark Short, Trump's chief of staff, to get the CDC to produce more reports and charts showing a decline in COVID-19 cases among young people, whether it was true or not. Look what Trump has done. And 45% of America still supports this murderous son of a bitch. Really, we really have gone off the rails in this country, haven't we? And that staff member, she's in the news all over the place right now, is Olivia Troy, who was one of the bastard Pence's top aides on the coronavirus task force. And she said she regretted being, her word, complicit in this effort to put children's lives at risk. Complicit. You're goddamn right, Olivia Troy. You bet you were complicit. You're going to have to spend the rest of your life on the knees, too. Not in front of Mike Pence, but in front of whatever altar you think is a direct connection to your particular Christian imaginary friend. God, these people are disgusting. Now, Olivia Troy, backpedaling like a son of a bitch, said she tried as much as she possibly could to shield the CDC from White House pressure, which she claims she saw as driven by the orange bastard's determination to have the schools open by the time votes were cast. Oh, really? You really tried? Why didn't you go public before you went public? Miss Troy, why didn't you step out early on and let the world know that all these filthy, rotten, phony-ass Christians that you work with and you claim to be one are just that? Phony, lying, hypocritical son of a bitches who don't care about human life at all. Oh, you care a lot about fetuses, though, don't you, Olivia? You and your filthy boss. Oh, fetuses are precious. But living children, kindergartners, first, second, third, fourth graders, screw them. Jesus, God, this is sick. Every day it gets sicker. Every day. Hey, Truth Seekers, while we're practicing safe social distancing, it's a great time to treat yourself with some seriously delicious, responsibly sourced coffee. Awaken to pleasure with River Moon Coffee. But don't take my word for it. Here are two recent reviews. Quote, "We sell River Moon Coffee at Marine General Store, and I can't seem to keep up with customer demand. Not only is the coffee excellent, but the philosophy behind it, the careful sourcing and constant research to bring a quality product to customers, appeals to the hearts of our community." End quote. And here's one from a fellow Malloy listener. Quote, "I love this coffee. I buy it in 5-pound bags. I especially love the Truth Seeker blend." End quote. Sounds like they're planning ahead for the apocalypse. Anyway, support a progressive small business that supports this program. Go to MikeMalloy.com and click on the River Moon Coffee link on the main page. You'll thank me later.